biggest difference that I find is when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing it completely on your own, that it's exactly that. You're completely on your own. It's only you, and there's no one you can call for to help you. There's no assistance whatsoever as far as sales, marketing, administration, accounting, billing, accounts receivables. There's no help. You're doing it on your own. You can form your team, you can have your accountants, and you can have your lawyers, but at the end of the day, you're on your own. Whereas with a franchise, I feel like I have the support, and it gives you the confidence to take on bigger accounts.
Welcome to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast, where we talk about all things franchising. Now, here's your host, Dr. John P. Hayes.
My guest today on Franchise Hot Seat is Pat Rossi, a franchisee who came into the United States on an E2 investor visa that we'll talk about, and he became a franchisee of Image One, a member of the Titus Center Advisory Board, by the way. Pat, welcome to my podcast. I appreciate you taking some time to talk with me today.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So this all happened in I didn't meet you in person, but we were at the same conference. We were at FranServe in Orlando. And one of the brokers there, Daniel Purim, apparently he was your broker about maybe 18 months ago when you inquired about investing in a franchise. And we'll talk some more about that. So I want to thank Daniel for bringing your story to my attention because I think it's very interesting. And I want to thank Alicia Visconti, who's the president of FranServe. What an amazing job she has done building that network. There were, maybe 500 people at that conference in Orlando when we both visited. And I appreciated that she is also a member of my Titus Center Advisory Board and includes one of my students in her conference every year to give them an internship. And the students love it because they meet people like you, they meet the brokers, they meet franchisors. Remarkable job that they do there at FranServe. So Daniel talked about you being his client and that he led you to the Image One franchise business. Let's back up. Where were you when you were 18 months ago or more, when you were thinking about franchising and coming to the United States?
Yeah, so I'm from Montreal, Canada. And so my wife and I, it was many years in the making, but my wife and I decided to pursue the American dream, the good old American dream, as they say. So I have a business, a commercial cleaning business in Montreal, Canada that I've owned for 20 years now. I've been in the commercial cleaning business for 22 years. And so we were looking to venture into the United States and see how I can expand my business or invest in a new business in most particularly Florida. So that's when I started to look for options. And then I was connected with Daniel Purim from Franchise Wizards. And we began to consult, and he recommended the E2 visa, which is an investor's visa that Canada and the United States have as a treaty. So I can invest into a company and they will grant me the visa, once applied for, to live and work in the United States. Okay. And so that's where Daniel took on my account and started to consult me.
Okay. So how did you find Daniel? How did that happen?
It was just a search online. I was just looking for a consultant or someone that can help me understand. It was all new for me, as it is for most people who are investing in the United States. So I was just looking for a consultant or an advisory, and his name just kept coming up. So I said, let me give him a call. And that's how I connected to him.
Yeah.
Great for Daniel. Great for him. Yeah.
Connected. You liked
yes.
him. You liked how he handled you and provided information to you. So
yes.
Another thing that's curious about your story, Pat, is that you already were in commercial cleaning in Canada. And Canada
yes.
and the United States are cousins. It's, you don't have the same laws in Canada regarding franchising that we have here, but commercial cleaning is commercial cleaning in Canada, just as the way it is anyplace else. Why did you think, well, let me go invest in a franchise in the United States? Not that that's a bad thing. I think it's a great idea. But I'm curious to know, a guy who already has a business doing what you want to do in the United States, why didn't you just come here and do it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I get that asked all the time. And I think the way I saw it was like I did all my calculations and I crunched all the numbers. When I started my business 20 years ago, it took a long time to get where I wanted to be and to reach my goals. As you know, a business can take anywhere between 5 and 8 years before it's even profitable. In the United States, the market is even more competitive. And so having to put all that money at risk and higher costs of starting and expanding my business to Florida would have been probably twice as much as I invested now. Because when you invest in a franchise, you're investing, first of all, you have lower startup costs. You're already getting a proven business model. And you're able to invest in the franchise and hit the ground running. So you're already set up and ready to go. So that was the main reason we wanted to try to make it as efficient as possible. So, and especially after putting all that money at risk, expanding my own business was a great idea. In retrospect, we looked at it and said, it's going to take us a very long time to get where we want to be.
So a lot of people say that franchising is more expensive than starting on your own. When you start on your own, you put your seed money in, you work it 24/7. You're sometimes the only employee, but when you buy a franchise, you've got to pay the upfront franchise fee. And that's usually going to be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Plus you have some other startup costs. But you say, no, this is less expensive. Buying a franchise, less expensive than doing it on your own. How so?
Well, with Image One, we had very low startup costs. I mean, the franchise was close to $30,000 to invest. Then I had to buy some equipment and materials. Whereas if I was starting my own company, I would have to get an IT department, get the website going, invest in brand recognition and marketing. And just marketing alone could end up costing me $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And there's no guarantee to anything. There's no brand recognition. I would have to hire a sales team and a sales force, to including my own time and my own efforts to go knocking on doors. Whereas when you're buying a franchise, it's already there for you. The structure is already set up for you. So that's why I see it as when you look at the financials, short term, going the way of the franchise, I felt was the best option for me. It may not be for everyone, but for me, for my wife and I, it was the best option because we were able to invest our money and get a return quite quickly. Within 3 to 4 months of having our franchise, we landed our first accounts, which is pretty good because I know cleaning companies that are in business for a year or two and they don't even have an account to show for.
So this all makes sense, and you explained that very well. You made it pretty easy for Daniel because you must have said you wanted a commercial cleaning franchise, or were you open to some other kind of a franchise?
I was open to other ideas, in always looking at the service industry. So Daniel presented a few options to me, but he really did a great job at understanding what it was that I needed and wanted out of a business. And I gave him my history in business as well. So Daniel did a great job. He did his questions, like he sent me all his questionnaires and stuff that we had to fill out. And we spoke quite a bit about what my goals were and what I wanted to achieve. One of the biggest goals for me was to have a cleaning company or a service-based company and to be able to get revenue and a profit out of that revenue as fast as possible. That was my main goal. And so Daniel said, that's when Daniel connected me with Image One. And it just was the perfect fit to be looking at that company and to connect with them. It just was perfect for me because I said, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
So Tim Kahn is the president of Image One, another member of the Titus Center Advisory Board. I want to thank him for helping me make the connection here, along with my graduate, Michael Scalia, who you know as well and probably talked to when you were at FranServe. A lot of people bringing together this one podcast that I'm doing with you, and I appreciate everyone's help. So let's go back to that E2 investor visa? Is that only for Canadians coming into the United States?
So Canada does have a treaty with the United States for the E2 visa, and there is a list of other countries that have the E2 visa treaty with the United States as well. But every country with that treaty has a different law. So with Canada, it was a really good idea for me to go for the E2 treaty, the E2 visa.
So did you need to contact an attorney to get involved with the E2 visa to make that possible for you? And how does that work?
So, because I was putting a lot at risk in this investment, I felt that going with an attorney was the best move for me. So I had a team of legal advisors that helped me with this. But I know I've heard of some people that have done it without an attorney, which I personally don't recommend. I didn't want to cut any corners. So I had Daniel with the consulting. I had a legal team to help me fill out all the paperwork. And we also developed together a business plan, which was a pretty extensive business plan that we created. And with the help of Image One, the franchise, since their business model is so complete and solid, it was the perfect E2 visa fit. So the requirements were all met with the US CIS, with the United States Consulate. So it was a no-brainer that, they approved the visa for me. And we already felt before we were approved that this was like a solid business and a solid foundation for us.
Some of the other countries, particularly European countries, Middle Eastern countries that have access to an investor visa, require $500,000 to $1 million to be invested in a business in the United States and create 10 jobs as well. But that's not the case with the E2, apparently. What are some of the requirements for the E2 visa?
So the E2 visa, you're looking at an investment. The attorneys will advise you to invest as close to $100,000 as possible.
Okay.
You can go over or you can go under, but it doesn't only come down to the investment amount. The United States consulate says it needs to be a significant investment. But they don't really specify what a significant investment is. They don't give us an actual number. But the immigration attorneys will tell you $100,000 or close to it does the trick.
Did you come close to it, or did you go over $100,000 to invest?
We came close to it. We invested the franchise purchase, but then we also hired an employee here, and we purchased some materials, and you're allowed to put some money in the bank as well for cash flow and capital. So we altogether, the money that we put aside for it was close to about $80,000.
Okay. Then you decided on South Florida, or you decided on Florida, not necessarily South Florida.
Yeah.
Why Florida? What was the big attraction? I know I live in Florida. I live in West Palm Beach, where Palm Beach Atlantic University is located. And there are a lot of Canadians here. They love Florida. What was your attraction to starting a business in Florida?
Yeah, so I'm in Cape Coral, Florida, in Southwest Florida. So my family and I always vacationed. My heart has always been in Florida since I vacationed, since I was a little kid with my parents. I always loved it here. I always wanted to return. I always felt like one day I want to live there. And my dream was one day I'm going to live in Florida when I'm retired. But after the pandemic hit, I said, why am I going to wait until retirement to do this?
Right.
When I can probably get this done, significantly earlier in my life. And this is far from retirement for me right now.
Right,
exactly. So it's just for the quality of living, the way of life in Florida.
Florida is also a great pro-business state, along with Texas. Mm-hmm. A lot of franchise companies start out, particularly in South Florida, where I'm based, or in Texas. And those two areas, South Florida and Texas, consistently lead the country in franchise development, new openings of franchises, success for franchisors and franchisees, largely because we have a pro-business environment, and you took advantage of that. Maybe that wasn't what was on your mind necessarily. You knew Florida from childhood vacations, and you wanted to be here, and so here you are. But was it more difficult to get started in a new country. It wasn't like moving from Canada, from Toronto to another city or Montreal to another city. You went to another country. And even though we're cousins, okay, was it more difficult to get launched here and get business?
To get launched and get business, it wasn't that difficult. What was difficult was just getting everything set up on my end as far as getting to the United States. So, for example, we don't have a credit score when we first move here. So we have no credit. Even though I have an excellent credit in Canada, the United States doesn't recognize any of that credit.
Wow.
So, and you don't realize how much, especially when you're in business, even though you have an LLC or a franchise, you don't realize how important having that credit is when you're trying to get a loan or a credit card or anything, right? To cover your day-to-day operational expenses. So that was definitely a challenge. The laws are very different in Florida and in the United States when it comes to commerce and business than they are in Canada. There is a lot more red tape in Canada and legislation and stuff like that goes on in Canada, whereas in Florida, it's a little bit more lax, I would say. The tax benefits in Florida are great as well, so everyone will tell you that as well. But yeah, definitely it was an uphill challenge just getting from one country to the other. It was an uphill battle, but well worth it in the end.
So how long does it take to establish credit in the United States in this kind of a situation?
So first we had to get our social security numbers. Once we obtained our visa, we had to get our social security numbers. Then once we got our social security numbers, we had to get a secured credit card. Then that secured credit card, I had to hang on to it for 6 months.
Okay.
A secured credit card is basically I'm putting $1,000 down, right? Some people may not know it, but I have to put $1,000 and I'm basically borrowing and paying interest on the money that I lent to the bank. So it was a great way.
Then that helps you establish credit. Then were you able to go apply for a regular credit card?
Yeah. After 6 months, finally we got our credit done. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it was done. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it about commercial cleaning that is so appealing? I've known of commercial cleaning franchises they're very popular in the United States. Janney King being one based in Dallas that I worked with very closely for a number of years. Coverall based in Florida as well. Image One. And there are others, Office Pride and so many others that are in commercial cleaning. And yet a lot of people think cleaning, I don't want to do cleaning. And maybe you don't do cleaning as a franchisee. Maybe you hire the people who do the cleaning. Talk about the business and why commercial cleaning is appealing.
Cleaning in general, commercial cleaning is appealing because, first of all, you can operate, if you're a franchisee, for example, you can operate the entire business from your home. You don't need an office because you're servicing locations. Also, to be able to service certain accounts, you can get more, like the more accounts you get, you can always hire more staff, or you can have one employee cleaning multiple accounts. So what I love to do is office cleaning, for example, and office cleanings can be maybe 2 or 3 days a week. So we can have one team or one employee cleaning multiple offices in one night and then like have a schedule Monday to Friday. So you can really roll out your resources as far as staffing goes, and you can have multiple accounts with your territory, which is intriguing to me as well. You have the flexibility of moving schedules around, moving the employees around, and I like doing the cleaning myself as well. But I try to work on my business instead of in my business, because if I become a cleaner, then nobody's operating my franchise. But
how many employees do you have now? How many people are working with you?
Right now we're at 8 employees at the moment.
And these are, when we say commercial cleaning, these are office buildings, or they could be factories, or you could be hired by Palm Beach Atlantic University to come and clean the public areas of the university. And how hard is it to get these clients? Do you have to go get them yourself, or does Image One get them for you?
Yeah, we definitely have support from Image One for the leads and the appointment setting. Image One does a great job at supporting us with that and with all the necessary information we need. I do as well go and do walk-ins, cold calls as well. But the national accounts will probably usually come in from head office. So, for example, last month I expanded my territory to Orlando, which is why I was at the conference actually last week. So I expanded from Cape Coral to Orlando because we got a contract at Disney World. So that came in through our head office, and then I was offered it, and I jumped on the opportunity right away. So it's a mix of having to be boots on the ground and going and get those accounts, and the franchise does their thing where they have that national brand recognition, so they can provide you with bigger accounts as well.
So when you started in the United States, it was Coral Gables. That was your only territory?
Cape Coral,
Cape
yeah.
Coral.
Yeah.
That was your only territory. And then
Yes.
how long did you work that territory until you said, I'm going to expand?
We worked this territory for about 8 months, and then the expansion happened because of the opportunity that came up at Disney World. And so we had some really good accounts here. We have some really good accounts here in Cape Coral as well. And I'm still focusing on the Cape Coral market. But the expansion to Orlando was a no-brainer for me with such a large account that came in there.
Is that a long distance from where you're based, Orlando?
2.5 hour drive.
Okay. So that's not
Sometimes
something
3.
you can be doing yourself. You can't be going over there to do the cleaning yourself. You're going to have good employees. Hard to find people to clean?
Um, it's hard to find good people to clean, but I look for people that are motivated and responsible, and then I train them because some people just don't have the expertise in cleaning right out the gate. So that's where I step in with my 22 years of experience, and I really try to train them what to look for, how to work efficiently. But definitely, yeah, if it's an account that's 2 or 3 hours away, I can't be there all the time, but I'm there quite often. And I also I also hired a supervisor in place to be doing walkthroughs and inspections on a daily basis as well with the team.
Do people in this industry, in your company, do they turn over a lot? They come and work for a couple weeks, couple months, and they're no longer interested, or do you keep them for long periods of time?
I try to retain my staff as long as possible, simply because I put in a lot of effort and a lot of time into training them. But I do know a lot of cleaning companies that don't hire quality employees. They go for the minimum wage. They go for the lowest wage staff that they can find. And on my end, staffing is not an issue. I have good people that work for me and that I can trust. And I do go above and beyond when taking care of them. And I won't pay them the minimum wage, that's for sure. I'll always give them a more competitive wage, competitive salary, which keeps them happy and it keeps the business rolling well. And it offers a certain level of professionalism as well to our clients, because we're not hiring the bottom of the barrel. We're hiring good people and good cleaners.
Mm-hmm. So what about the working hours? You work at night. You can't work during the day. You can't go clean the bank when people are in the bank. You got to after hours. How do you get used to that? And are there people who say, look, I prefer to work from 5 p.m. until 5 a.m. I'd rather do that than work a regular during daylight hours. How does that work?
Well, on my schedule, I'm working all the time as a business owner. So I don't even know when it's day or night. I work or be where I have to be when it's necessary for me to be there. But I'm actually pretty surprised because there's actually a lot of people that prefer working in the evenings or at night. And sometimes it'll be also like a side gig for them where they'll be like, hey, I can work 4 hours and clean two places for you Monday to Friday. And then they'll work somewhere else in the morning or somewhere as their full-time job. So those are really good employees as well. But yeah, you'll be surprised. Some people enjoy working in the evening and nights as well.
So one of the things that people want when they buy a franchise, if they're going to invest let's say $100,000. They want to know, how soon am I going to earn back the $100,000? And I want to take home $150,000 a year. Can you do that in commercial cleaning? Can you do these things, $100,000 to pay it back, $150,000 a year?
You can do that, depending on how you scale your business, depending on how profitable your accounts are. Obviously, if you're looking at a smaller profit margin per account, I see some companies they're offering ridiculously low prices, and then within a couple of years they're out of business or they've lost the account because they weren't able to reach the requirements of that contract and they weren't meeting the scope of work for the cleaning. On my end, with Image One, we try to find a balance between customized budgets for the client, but it has to be profitable as well for us so that we can sustain this client and make profit.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you in Image One to earn back your investment?
To earn back the investment, I've only been in with Image One for close to 2 years. Like we had said, 18 months, almost 2 years. Yeah. I have definitely not earned back the full investment yet. But in sales, we're looking at I'm building close to 30,000 a month already. So that's we're closing. My goal by end of this time next year is to reach $400,000 of sales. And it looks like we're on target for that. So if I can pull out 10% profit on that, it could be something after just 1 or 2 years of business. I know businesses as well as my own in Canada took me almost 5 years to come out with even a 5% profit because it was so competitive. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say how a business is going to take their profit out of the company. I would say from now to 3 years, we could probably get our investment back at like 100%.
Okay. And what about Image One? I love Tim and I love Michael, my graduate. I think they're terrific. They do a good job in bringing you on board and supporting you and helping you to succeed. This is really important in franchising. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you evaluate them?
I would give them 100%. Tim helped me. They were so patient with the whole process of the E2 visa application. He helped me understand the franchise. The training and support they offered to me was it's unlimited. I still have training and support at my disposal whenever I want. The marketing and sales assistance that they give to me on a daily basis is incredible. Starting up with them was probably the easiest part of this whole venture because they really were very patient. Not Tim, amazing, Michael as well. They did a great job, and Tim did a really good job at going through the whole process of how the franchise works before I onboarded with him. So, they were very patient. It took a while also for us to be approved for the E2 visa, and they were super patient about that as well. So I don't know how many franchisors will actually deal with that or have the patience to go through that, but they were excellent at helping us out.
Well, that's all good to hear. What about the difference? You were a business owner in Canada in commercial cleaning. You already established your business successfully there. Then you come to the United States and you're a franchisee. What's the big difference between the two? Being on your own as the owner of the business, or being a franchisee where you are an owner of your LLC, but you don't own Image One, the brand. Mm-hmm. What's the big difference between these two?
The biggest difference that I find is when you're an entrepreneur and you're doing it completely on your own, that it's exactly that. You're completely on your own. It's only you, and there's no one you can call for to help you. There's no assistance whatsoever as far as sales, marketing, administration, accounting, billing, accounts receivables. There's no help. You're doing it on your own. You can form your team, you can have your accountants, and you can have your lawyers, but at the end of the day, you're on your own. Whereas with a franchise, I feel like I have the support, and it gives you the confidence to take on bigger accounts and not have to worry about stuff like account receivables or billing or marketing because it's being taken care of. So I could really focus on my territory and what I'm supposed to do. And I let them handle, like the head office handles the bigger stuff. So that's the biggest difference, is just feeling like you're part of a team. And also Image One helps us set sales targets and goals as to where we want to be. And as an entrepreneur, especially after 20 years, you do become complacent, where you start to be like, okay, well, I have enough accounts, let me just relax or whatever. But then the bills start coming in and you're like, okay, well, maybe taking those 3 months off wasn't a great idea.
Right.
So with a franchise, I love it that they're always pushing us to be better and to achieve those goals and to meet those targets. And they guide us and help us to get there. So that's the biggest difference for me.
One of the advantages, I think, in commercial cleaning, and you hit on it already, you don't have to invoice your clients. Is that right? Image One does that for you. Image One collects the money for you. You don't have to worry about someone who's delinquent. And that takes a load off you. When you're on your own in Canada, not only did you have to do the cleaning and the hiring and the training, but you also had to send out an invoice and get your money, which is not an easy thing to do in business.
Absolutely. That's the scariest part of doing business, especially in commercial cleaning. We're sending out an invoice and you're servicing the account for 30 days. It could be a $10,000 invoice and you don't know if that account is going to even pay you. And if they don't pay you, you need to have a good legal team that's going to go after them and try to collect the money. But in the meantime, you still have your employees to pay and all your overhead costs. So you haven't gotten any of that money. So now you have all these expenses to cover. And that's the scariest part for any business, really. But in commercial cleaning, it's particularly scary because we invoice at the beginning of the month and only get paid at the end of the service. So it's kind of tricky. But with Image One, they have a good system in place and they take care of all that. And they make sure that, we're all being taken care of and getting paid.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's one of the big advantages of franchising, at least commercial cleaning franchising. I'm glad it's all worked out so well for you, Pat. I hope it goes well with your expansion into Orlando. Are you going to expand elsewhere in Florida as well, or is this it?
No, my goal is to keep expanding territories. I'm going to continue growing the Cape Coral market for Image One, and then I'm starting now with Orlando at Disney World. I started that last month, and I just had a quick conversation with Tim last week, and I said, "Hey, Tampa Bay, that's mine." So I already have my eye on that territory to purchase that franchise as well. So, but we're doing it one step at a time, and that's the way we're setting our goals, and it seems to be going pretty good right now. Actually, very well.
Great. Well, that's all good news. I'm glad that the franchise has worked out. The E2 investor visa helped you get into the country and get established. You got your credit. And you're off to a great start 18 months later. So I look forward to hearing more good news about Pat Rossi.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Franchise Hot Seat Podcast with Dr. John P. Hayes. Tune in next time for more conversation around all things franchising.